And we're back with Truth Unrestricted, the podcast that is creating and interpreting the language of the disinformation age. I'm Spencer, your host, back again today with a man with a large head, Patrick. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing good with my pinch zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing good, Spencer. How are you today?
Crash your head, crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life is busy, but we're doing it. We're doing this life thing. It's fine. It's good.
We're in
So
it. We're in it to win it.
yeah, no more awkward transitions away from having to, avoid talking about my personal life. We're going to talk about something particular today. I'm calling it persistent false conclusion. Got a weird name. Sounds awkward. It sounds like something a scientist would come up or something, some kind of lud philosopher kind of a person working on logic or something. But we're going to get into this. Before that, is there anything? Do we have anything left over from anything?
Housekeeping that I'm aware of? No.
I'm still getting emails. The latest one was from a person who, the email was addressed in the first person, as though that person themselves was writing it, not like that, like the third person, like this person wrote a book about something. No, this was apparently a person. I did this thing. Would you let me on on your podcast? And I was like, but again, 5 days later or something, the follow-up with almost the same thing again. It was like, just in case you missed this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, this is still a machine. Yeah, I don't know. It's trying different tactics.
Yeah.
It's like the T-Rex. It's testing the fence in Jurassic Park, right? It's trying. Yeah.
It's the Turing test of podcast hosts.
Maybe it thinks that I'm not a human. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's maybe it thinks I'm a machine and it's trying to see. Yeah, interesting. Weird situation where you get like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith situation where you get like two machines that both find out that they're the machine. Each one thinks they're the secret agent, but they find out that yeah.
Or when you call two pizza places or two taxis and you do the thing with the phone.
It's been a long time.
That was always fun.
Worked.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. All right. So enough about the prank calls we did in the 90s. We are talking about a real thing today. I swear it's real. Where are my notes? They are right here. Okay. So there are we have this thing, a concept that we call confirmation bias. You may have heard of this in passing, right? You've heard of confirmation bias? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The name confirmation bias does heavily describe a lot of what it is, in that you're biased to confirm the things that you feel or you already know or you feel strongly about. But, and that's very broad. There are many sort of like subcategories of this. And if you're really looking at these things, sometimes it's useful to point out different, put different instances of this into different categories to kind of more exactly define
methods and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And to develop different methods of overcoming them, that sort of thing. So usually like a lot of instances of confirmation bias are what might be considered like innocent, like they're not purposefully trying to deceive anyone or themselves. They're a person who's just encountering the world, and in their encountering the world and having the brain they have, which is similar to almost everyone's brain, they just come up with these sort of errors, right?
They're encountering at a certain skill level.
Well, we all are. Yeah. That's the reason why
you can say that about everyone.
We're in better shape when we help each other encounter the world, which is really how we eventually developed science. And in our efforts to help each other encounter the world, we came up with a system by which we could all agree was at least a system that we agreed on. That was the way in which we do this. Yeah.
And thinking about how we encounter the world is a worthwhile exercise that
absolutely
people who don't embark on that journey never understand or grow their awareness.
Put a pin in that. That's going to come up. That's going to come out, that exact thing, thinking about how we encounter the world. So sort of related to confirmation bias is a concept that I call the dishonesty of zealotry. Now I have an episode about this, and I mention it all the time, probably very annoying to people who casually know me on Twitter. I keep going on about this thing. But this is a situation where a person is consciously lying about something, and they justify it to themselves by focusing on the like completely subjective level of importance of what it is they're lying about. So the example I use is like a person who wants to sell their religion could justify lying about the nature of the afterlife by telling themselves that they're saving someone's eternal soul. And the importance of saving the soul far outweighs whatever little bit of sin you accumulate by slurring the truth of the situation, right? That sort of thing. This happens all the time with well, I mean, I always use the example of a flat earther, right? Flat earthers will they will doctor images, for example, or look at situations in a deliberate manner that avoids the parts that will prove them wrong. And many know it, but when you catch them doing it, like, it's very strange because you don't often get an "oh shucks, you caught me," and then they scurry away because they're just a troll. That's what a troll would do. But this is not what flat earthers do. They usually double down and just insist harder. And what appears is happening is they do truly believe, but they seem to also believe that faking the evidence that would support their claim is also perfectly reasonable and reliable, which also brings me to another one of my favorite ideas, which is the idea that some people, a fair number now, don't believe in an objective reality. They believe in a collective subjective reality, which means that if, like, I think the flat earthers believe on a fundamental level that if they get everyone else to believe the earth is flat, then it will be. Like, all the lies they're telling will become truth if everyone else believes it. Which is, it seems bonkers, but that is a thing that explains their collective behavior. So I put it on the table for people to consider.
That's wild.
For people who understand that there is an objective reality that would still exist regardless of whoever is observing it, that does seem like the most bonkers thing to believe. But it does explain the collection of their behavior. So I think we might be dealing with another weird category error of thing here, where they have convinced themselves that all they need to do is make everyone else believe it, and then it's real. So anyway, we're not really talking directly about confirmation bias or dishonesty of zealotry today. We're talking about another, like, subcategory of these things that are adjacent to these. So another subcategory of this that's not really confirmation bias and not really the dishonesty of zealotry is something that just might be called bullshitters. So, like, these are people who are just indifferent to the truth or the nature of the truth. Even they say things without regard for whether or not those things are true or ever were true. And usually the measure for the value of a statement is whether it gets them, like, the attention they crave. Does it make them look more intelligent or brave or strong or whatever? We definitely have known some people who bragged about having been with a large number of women to self-aggrandize themselves. That's just a thing that they did. Whether that was true or not, I think at least some of it was some level of bullshit. And this is the kind of behavior they do. They just sort of It's very braggadocio. It's very exaggerative. It's and it fits right in with a lot of internet culture, by the way, which a lot of people on the internet do. There's just a lot of bullshit out there. People who just say things just to say things, right? And a lot of it is highly exaggerated. That's sort of the name of the game on the internet, is to exaggerate harder than the other people are exaggerating. So these three categories, we have sort of confirmation bias, dishonesty, zealotry, and we have bullshit. So in my thinking about this, I found the need for another sort of subcategory, sort of unique variety of this. I think it's probably squeezed between like the innocent version of confirmation bias and like the dishonesty of zealotry, if you can kind of picture this on like a
spectrum.
Like yeah. And I'm calling it, as it's printed on the screen, I've said a couple times, persistent false conclusion. So I find it best to describe this strictly by example. It's a general example, so it's non-specific example, but this is sort of, it's like a process of how it works. So step one, a person finds some evidence or a story that claims that to be factual, like some part of the truth. And then they take that evidence or story and they form a conclusion based on having seen it and taking it as fact. Okay, that's step two. Step three, they usually much later, they find out that the evidence or the story from step one wasn't actually true. Okay.
Right. The support for the belief they created in step two.
They saw a fact, they came up with a conclusion or a belief or something based on that fact. Much later on, they found out that that fact was wrong. So what do you think step four is?
Maybe it's something like denying the relationship between the original claim and the belief as it's held now.
Well, it's in the name of the thing. They just persist in the conclusion.
Yeah.
They just persist in it. They just insist that it's still true regardless of whether the evidence supports it.
Right. And they're no longer concerned. Like, they use the evidence as a scaffold to build the belief.
Yes.
But the scaffold,
pull the scaffold away and it holds itself up like an arch. Arches used to be built this way. They'd have a wooden frame. They'd place all the blocks on the frame.
A bad term for it because, it's not. It's like more like they built a foundation, a weak foundation.
Well,
when the building collapses,
as we're searching for metaphors, in the way that this works in the brain, like neuroscientifically, like you can believe pretty much anything. The further that belief is from reality, the worse off your decisions are, generally speaking, going to be. Because
this reminds me of the Electric Monk.
What's the Electric Monk?
From Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul.
Oh, yes. Yes, it kept wondering about what was across the horizon, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Wondering what it might be. Maybe the next valley will be a deep shade of pink or something.
All day believing there would be a door, and then when there was a door, it just didn't know what to do in short circuit.
Whoa, finally something came through. So that's essentially how it works. So people come by this innocently, they're not generally trying to build themselves into an unreal situation. But it comes from the idea that most people aren't relentlessly checking how it is that they know each thing that they know. And that's, I don't blame them. It's difficult to, it's a lot of extra overhead to constantly check how it is that you know each thing that you think you know.
Or to even know that the thing that you're basing it on could be subject to new discoveries or some other evidence emerging,
Yeah,
right? Like
right.
some things we would know, be like, well, there's no chance they're going to find that out differently because it's a concrete fact. Some things are just very, very strong interpretations, I think. So,
Right, but oftentimes we even very often confuse an observable fact with a conclusion, or is that right?
a phenomena with, or,
Yeah, like a phenomenon is an observable fact, but a conclusion is based on building a premise based on usually other facts,
mm-hmm,
but can be built on other conclusions. You can build conclusions on top of conclusions.
mm-hmm,
And oftentimes people will call their conclusions just other facts, right? So I mean, the observable phenomena, let's take flat earth for example. There are observable phenomenon that lead us to the conclusion that the earth is spherical,
mm-hmm.
but often we'll just call the spherical earth the fact. It's, to be fair, it's very reliable fact, but flat earthers have sort of tried to use that against the world. Oh, that's just an interpretation you made, and it is, and most people can't do the math to reinterpret it on an individual basis, nor should they
Mm-hmm.
have to, really. But that's what flat earthers are trying to take advantage of, that you can't know to an infinitesimal degree every single thing that leads to the conclusion, the overall conclusion that the earth is a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
They will then take the same thing in a sort of weird mimicry, or almost like some kind of cargo cult. They'll take the same thing and say, okay, well, I observed these things, and they'll just pick some, and I'm building an interpretation based on these, a conclusion that the earth is flat. And then they'll say, oh, because the earth is flat, NASA must be fake, which is then a new conclusion that's built solely on top of a previous conclusion that itself was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But they do it anyway. They say, oh, the fact that the earth is flat allows me to say with certainty now that all the NASA stuff is fake. And they just go with that. That's a thing they do. But they also regularly get their the things that they call evidence. You'll get a lot of flat earthers who will do experiments in this sort of thing and show them, and those experiments will be shown to be wrong or inconsistent or whatever, and they will just roll right past that. It doesn't matter to them. In that case, I think that's a little more like dishonesty of zealotry, because they it's the fact that they believe in it so hard that is causing them to ignore the counterfactuals. But in the case of persistent uh, um,
False conclusion.
false conclusion, I think this is much less often the things we feel really strongly about, and more often like uh, uh, a bunch of little things that can lead to other problems. Here's one that comes to mind for me. Um, I used to think that I heard a story once upon a time. I used to think that uh, bears sometimes, like mother bears sometimes eat their own young. This
Okay,
was a
that
thing I
seems
was told. Right.
plausible.
Okay.
Animals do that.
Well, uh, except that I've looked now and I can't find anything to support that.
Well, it's only plausible. It's not, I wouldn't say it's likely just from the hip.
Yeah,
It's just that I am aware some mammals eat their young. It's,
they kill the young of others.
I've watched my gerbils kill their babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
And it
that's
it stems
rough.
from things like malnutrition. It stems from things like
Yeah.
anxiety. It also stems from if the offspring isn't strong enough, a strong offspring will protest being nibbled on, whereas a weak offspring won't. And then
Oh.
the parent can become determined to basically cull their litter. That's what's
Wow.
speculated about it, but
Yeah.
it does happen.
But
Some
they kill them, but they eat them?
um, in the case of the malnutrition, I have seen my gerbils
Oh,
devour their babies, snack on them. It's
that's not great. That's not
it's
great.
not.
That's
It
not good at
wasn't
all.
great to watch, but that's cycle of life stuff. It's
Wow, that's well, I mean, maybe there are times, but I've looked now on the internet a fair amount. I've not found any in the many pantheon of things uh about wildlife and zoology and people who study these things that in any single instance corroborates this story that I once heard.
hmm.
But I formed a conclusion based on it. It's fairly harmless. I wasn't going around and starting religions based on this or anything like that. But I have to go and examine myself now and say, okay, well, I think this was a thing that was wrong. Maybe the person who told me was just mistaken. That
Mhm.
happens a lot. Happened a lot in the '90s. We didn't quite have the internet yet to check anything. Um, Even now that we have the internet to check things, sometimes that hasn't worked out really great for a lot of
we're
people.
we're still not sure about Marilyn Manson's rib.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't think he bothered to do that. That seems a little much.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. It's not really very rock
yeah,
star to
we
have to do it yourself.
there was an interesting thing about this that example of this as well that I should probably bring up, which is did you ever watch? There was a docu series on Netflix once. It was called "Making a Murderer." Did you ever watch that? It was pretty
Yes,
big.
but none of
It
it
was like
stuck to me. I do
10, 12 years
remember
ago.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
involved a false accusation that
Well,
supposedly inspired the guy to
no.
carry out an action, or I don't know.
Rough details of making a murderer. The case is a public case. It was a there was a man in it might have been like Wisconsin or Minnesota or one of those Midwestern states that is not extremely important, like Illinois. Um, One of the more backwater uh, states like that. He was just around the time that he graduated high school. He was accused of rape by a woman in the town nearby or whatever, and there was a trial, and he was she was the only witness. She identified him as the rapist, and he went to prison. Spent, I think, 18 years in prison, and then because they at the time that he went to prison, they didn't have the DNA technology yet, but they kept all the samples, and eventually they got around to feeding all the samples into CODIS, which is their big
It's our database, yeah.
database nationwide. They got a hit, and they found that the DNA that was a sample collected from the rape victim not only did not belong to the person they put in prison, but belonged to a completely different person that was already in prison for a different rape.
Hmm. Like by the time
So,
they caught up with it.
well, I mean, they had the sample and they backlog. They
Yeah.
eventually got around to putting these in. They put him in because this guy's name is what's his name? Oh, Stephen Avery is his name. uh, they thought, well, maybe he had committed other rapes that were unsolved. So we put this one in, and maybe we can see what comes back. Well, when they put it in, they found out that some surprising results, and he got completely exonerated because he was not the not the perpetrator. And some interesting things started happening then. So, for example, uh, first of all, there was a documentary film crew there to do a documentary about his exoneration and him sort of like entering back into real life. He'd spent, like, at that point, I think he was, I don't know, like 19 or 20 when he went to prison, and he was 18 years in prison, like almost exactly half his life in prison. And they wanted to sort of document this. And they got, paid some money or something, I guess, probably, and got permission to film. And so, like, they were there as he's getting out of the jail and all that stuff. They were like right there filming. And they had interviews with some of the people who were there, and they happened to get an interview with the woman who was raped. And they had her testimony from before, and she was like, yes, I was all alone in the woods, I was assaulted, this is the man, and he raped me. 18 years after the fact, after this man had been exonerated, not just like sometimes there's different levels. They can set a verdict aside, or they can, I think there's another one, I don't know what they call it, where they can, like, it's like a terminate it, but under that one they can retry it. But exonerated is like, you can't even retry them for this. They are definitely free, and you let them out right now, and you cannot just retry them for this because it wasn't them. And they interviewed her after that, and she began to tell a new story 18 years later, that he was there and there was two perpetrators. Really interesting. Okay, they're like, you didn't say anything about this for 18 years. You went on the stand and said there was one. Like, were you lying then? Like, I don't understand. Nothing about this makes sense. But it appears that she believed for 18 years that he was the one who raped her, that she wanted to still believe that he was guilty of that. Turns out that many people in the town also still wanted to believe that. And as that story went, I mean, this all happens kind of in the first episode. I'm not really ruining anything about it. Another woman goes missing, and Stephen Avery is the last person that she apparently talks to. He's in a car trading business kind of thing. He's got a wrecking yard, and he's selling vehicles that look like they'll roll and be able for people to drive. And she's taking pictures. She's supposed to take pictures for this Auto Trader magazine. And, he calls her for to take a picture of a couple of vehicles, and she shows up and she takes the pictures, and then she drives away, and she's never seen again. So then they just sort of come to the conclusion that, yeah, he definitely did it. And it's sort of based on the idea that he did this before, except that he didn't do this before. He didn't do that. Right? Like, it's this situation where I can't say for sure that he didn't kill this woman. I don't know that being in prison didn't change him in such a way that it didn't make him a murderer, which is kind of what they're implying by the title of the show. Yeah. But all the police in the town, a lot of townspeople, they all think he killed the second woman because of what he did to the first woman. Except he didn't do that to the first woman, and they all know that. Like, that's a matter of the record, but it's so hard to get past this thing. You built this idea in your head, and tearing it down is a difficult thing. So, yeah, what do you think? Am I making sense here? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, that's a good recap of making a murderer. I guess I'd want to know, how do we bring it back to the persistent false conclusion? Like,
well,
aside from like
murderer, they all, I mean, the reason why they thought he was guilty was because they still thought he did the first thing that they had.
So was he prosecuted a second time for that second woman that went
Yes.
missing?
That's like, because the film crew, because the documentary crew was there already filming to, do scenes about his life out of prison and him trying to, all that stuff. They were right there on the scene when a lot of these things were happening. So they were getting like
Oh,
live footage from like the police searches and all this. Like it was,
ah,
yeah, it was. And you see a lot of it, and a lot of the court stuff they go through. Not everything from the court was actually mentioned in the thing, which is something that people who think he's guilty talk about. Oh, they made him look so much more innocent than he really was if you saw the court thing. Like, okay, well, I don't know, I wasn't there.
mm-hmm.
But it's unmistakable. Like the way they talk about it is, oh yeah, he definitely did it because he did the first thing.
Yeah.
He did that rape 20 years ago. He definitely did this one too. They're essentially the same crime, only he didn't kill the first one. Uh,
There's no question of
yeah,
admissibility for that evidence, right?
yeah.
Like,
It's a complete loop for them, and they just, oh yeah,
yeah.
of course he did it. That he's the only suspect.
Hmm. So where else
Um,
do we see persistent false conclusions? Where do we see this? I mean, besides, I'd be like, Donald Trump seems to be persistently,
well,
in his
yeah.
false
I mean, not
conclusions.
never revisiting. He's more of a bullshitter, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't care about the nature of the truth. He wants to self-aggrandize. He wants the story to be told right now that makes him look good, and
Hmm.
that's what he wants. He's more of a bullshitter. But I mean, if I'm looking for more examples, here's one that comes to mind. There's an excellent podcast done by a person named Lydia Green. She does a podcast called Back to the Vax. That's she hasn't done any new episodes in a little while, but she's been on this podcast a couple times, and her episodes are still very relevant because they, first of all, some of them are very technical about the nature of vaccines, but that's not what this discussion's about. This is about persistent false conclusions. So there's one episode in particular that I found to be very, very impactful. It was she does the podcast often with a person that she knows, Heather something. Forgive me, I don't remember her last name right now. I know her first name's Heather, but the two of them are talking, and Heather's talking about getting her own children vaccinated. So Heather also spent many years believing that vaccines were harmful, and then backtracked on that to now wanting to vaccinate because she feels that the vaccines aren't harmful.
Hmm.
She's looked at the science, she's looked through all the things, she's looked at all the ways in which that she previously believed were real things, and she thought were real things, all the lies that were being told to her on the forums that she was reading. And she knows, the pair of them, when you ask them about it, they know a great deal about not only the vaccines, but all the lies that anti-vaxxers will tell about the vaccines because they lived it. And she knows them all. But she describes the process of taking her children to get vaccinated and how she had like fear, like extreme unease, because like while she consciously knew that vaccinating them was the best choice,
Hmm.
she did have still this sort of residual piece in her mind
Hmm.
that was this sort of nesting piece of like fear, this like sort of like in like her lizard brain, if you want to call it that, that was like she had accessed and built on for so many years, essentially, that was still difficult for her to just go and do.
Hmm.
And that episode was really, really interesting to listen to, just because it's so obvious that it's she's not like faking it or anything. It's so real. And just the strength to overcome that fear and do it anyway, I think was really remarkable. But it's interesting that, like in that case, the false conclusion was that the vaccines were, in her mind, like poison, deadly
Hmm.
poison. And she was able to know for sure that they weren't. But the fear remained. The fear still resided sort of in the back of her head, right? And she had seen all the numbers, and but I mean, that they're her children. They're extremely important to her as a mother, right? Like that's
One hopes.
one hopes, yeah. In almost every case where there is a mother, the children are extremely important to them. And yeah, so that's a really interesting thing. That's an interesting piece of like neuroscience and psychology, how they intermingle, and that reality isn't cut and dry. It's not so easy to just look at a thing and go, oh, that's easy, that's simple, that's this. Sometimes it's built on a series of stories you tell yourself and then later have to undo. um Man, yeah, it's a really interesting story. I'll throw a link to that particular episode in the links for this episode, so that if anyone wants to just link straight to that, they can go and listen to that, because I like that podcast. It's only got like 20 episodes or something, but it's all really good. I think anyone who's interested in the topic should listen to it. And I think anyone who has friends or family or anything who is hesitant about vaccines should give that a listen, because they know what it's like, and what that experience was of being a anti-vaxxer and then coming away from that. But yeah, and still the fear remains. Very interesting. So how was that, Patrick? You like that story? Is that good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's always interesting hearing about people who were able to not only change course on what their belief was because they've come into something that they consider better information, but to be able to be vulnerable and share that story about how wrong they were.
Right. I mean, one imagines that there were many other people who left behind beliefs like that, but not all of them talk about it, right?
But I mean, there's probably a lot of people who get into that other world kind of articulating it the same way, like, oh, I was feeding poisons to my baby until I realized vaccines are bad, right? It's always, a bit of their personal narrative, but you don't ever see them being like, oh, like, I have to own that I was wrong about it. They're just like, oh, that's how good they were at fooling me.
Well, right? Yeah,
that sense of agency is missing.
But here's what I notice, and actually on a couple episodes of this podcast, we talk about it a little bit, is that the feeling is among people who have sort of been through that and sort of come out of it, is that you can't really trust anyone who's been that far unreal unless they're willing to own their own mistake. Mm-hmm. Like, unless they're willing to say, yeah, no, I screwed that up. If they're still saying it was someone else's fault, or they're minimizing their part, I didn't really believe all that hard or whatever, like, you can't, that's not a thing you can really, they need more time or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you can't rest a lot of credibility on that.
There's been some times where there's been people who have sort of like switched sides of an issue, like a important political issue or whatever, and there's been a media person that's been really, really eager to put them in front of a camera and just have a microphone shoved in their face and tell us all about how you changed from the evil side and came back to our side, kind of thing. And that's not, that usually doesn't work out the way that it should. Many of the people who, especially like if they just change their mind, they need more time. Like, you don't just change your whole belief system on a whim.
No.
If you are, that's a thing you didn't believe in the first place. And then we should ask you different questions, like, why were you saying those things if you didn't really believe them?
Yeah.
Those are relevant
And
questions.
yeah, and not having had your belief tested, like how long did your new belief,
Yeah.
survive
Yeah.
the
If you switch
challenges that,
back this quickly, will you switch back to the other as quickly,
yeah.
right? Like that's, yeah, we need, and it's not a situation where we should try to demonize them, but we should try to maybe move them away from the public eye.
Mhm.
Say, hey, like, look, I don't think you should be, I don't know, doing these interviews or speaking on CNN or whatever. And I don't think you should talk to the nation. Like that doesn't seem. Marjorie Taylor Greene, yeah, you just decided that you're not a QAnoner anymore. Yeah, you need some time, girl. You were deep.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
take
you need to
go home,
heal.
read a couple books that are
Yeah.
total fiction, like
Yeah.
fantasy, whatever, escape stuff, like reflect,
Yeah.
watch some sunsets, like, I don't know, walks on the beach, whatever you do, whatever's your thing,
Yeah.
like do that. And just you time. That's what you need is you time, right? Like,
I sound like, or it sounds
yeah.
like part of that is your encouragement to also, like, let's have not you time, right? Let's all of
Well,
us have not you time, and
all
you
of us,
only
yeah,
have you time. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Because of the people that I find to have left behind those beliefs and are what I might call reliable,
Mhm.
not a single one of them minimizes what they believed. They all fully recognize what it was that they believed. Like Brent Lee believed that uh, uh, the things that we call like bombings and mass shootings, he said were fake, and he thought they were fake as part of a demon blood sacrifice ritual thing. Yeah, like really, really far stuff. Yeah. But he doesn't back away from that. He doesn't try to minimize and shrink away and say, "Oh, I don't know if I don't." No, he says, "No, I did believe that, and I don't believe it anymore. Like I can't deny that I once believed that.
Mhm.
Like that would, the pain I caused people when I did that. That's real pain. I have to face that, right? So, and if a person isn't willing to do that, then they're not respectful to reality, not respectful to the
Mhm.
people who were harmed by their subversion of reality. Um, yeah.
Mhm.
But these things, how we come to wrong conclusions can be innocent, and how we stick to the wrong conclusions can be also seemingly somehow still innocent. But
Mhm.
we can
Or
form habits.
negligent.
Sure. We can form habits that help us do better. It's
Mhm.
essentially what real skepticism is constantly double checking how it is that you know the things that you think you know. And it
Mhm.
is fairly exhausting. It's why most skeptics don't try to focus on every topic under the sun. Most of them kind of narrow it to a couple, sort of a few categories, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Things
because
they can be really fluent in, right?
yeah,
And to notice a change happen
yeah, and they might
earlier or
want to
sooner.
learn about the other things, but they don't try to speak about them. They don't try to
Right.
become the ones who become sort of like influencers
Yeah. Or
or run YouTube
authoritative.
channels or whatever. They don't try to talk on everything,
Mhm.
right? They just try to do the ones that they know about because, yeah. Yeah, so that's persistent false conclusion. Um, if you think about Wile E. Coyote walking over a cliff edge and not falling until he realizes he doesn't have the ground underneath him anymore, that's a perfect example of what it's like in your head with persistent false conclusion. You were sure you were right the whole time, and then you remember,
Yeah.
no, no, wait, I thought that because of this, and that's wrong. Shit.
Drop. Yeah.
Yeah. But I always wondered as a kid, what if Wile E. Coyote just insisted that there was ground there? He could just keep walking, right? He only
Apparently.
drops when he realizes there's no ground. So if he just
Yeah. According
Yeah,
to Looney Tunes physics, that's
well, there was a piece of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that also sort of made some light of this, right?
yeah,
You can fly if you throw yourself at the ground and miss, right?
and miss. Yeah.
Yeah.
The secret's not thinking about it too much.
Yeah, get distracted at just the right moment.
Yeah.
Arthur Dent's secret power was that he was always kind of just a little bit distracted by everything.
Yeah, little
It's
checked
much
out.
easier for him to learn to fly. Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. With that, we're gonna close this off. So, outro music. Till next time, everyone.
Till next time.
I don't have a cat to hold up. What the hell?
Where's your animals?
I don't know. I'm animalless. Please remember to rate this podcast as often as possible to increase its reach. Due to the fact that rating algorithms are so incredibly rigged, only 5-star ratings are worth anything. All other numbers might as well be 0 stars. If it's not a 5-star rating, I would prefer none at all. Sorry, I didn't build the system. Please subscribe to this podcast to get the latest episodes brought straight to you and recommend it to whomever you think would enjoy it. And special thanks to Jeff Powell for the theme music. I paid for it by listening to him play his old acoustic guitar until the strings broke back in high school. It was worth it.